Phil, I'm so thrilled to have you as my
Thank you.
first guest. I have loved La Hood since I went in there, and the fact is, I think that La Hood is really the best steakhouse in Bozeman.
I love
Even,
that.
and I hope you get a lot of people that come out to Bozeman
I think we
because,
do. I
yeah.
think we do. I
So,
remember that first night you met Mick, and you and Mick
yes.
had a great conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
loved Mick. I
Yeah.
love Mick. I love the feeling that people are coming from all different directions to come to La Hood. So I'm going to describe La Hood for our viewers just a little bit. La Hood is on the Jefferson River, just outside of Whitehall, sort of between Whitehall and Three Forks, Montana. And it's right at the mouth of the Jefferson River Canyon. So you're watching the river roll by and into the canyon, and that canyon is just something special.
Tremendous geology. Yeah.
Do you know anything about the
little.
origins of the geology? Like, why are these pieces of rock just stacked up there like a piece
The
of...
continental drift. That's how that all happened when the continents pushed underneath each other, and up they went.
And then the river just carved right down through the center of it. So.
I expect. Don't know for sure about
And
that.
then, of course, you have the Lewis and Clark caverns in there, which are, stalactite and stalagmite
they're
and
beautiful.
deep ravines of water working through
Limestone,
those
yeah,
limestone.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel very fortunate to have such a great restaurant in our backyard. And then, not only is it just incredible scenery, but the food is exquisite. And I think, and everybody that I know talks about the fact that Phil knows his steak.
Oh.
So, and you do,
Well,
right?
and-
This is
but,
your background.
Correct. However, without Sarah, our chef, she makes the place. She is unbelievable. Yeah.
So did you have Sarah when you started this restaurant? I mean,
Yes, she's worked for me since I've opened, about 8 years, and I think she's maybe missed 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Tougher than nails, and so authentic, and so she has such great ideas about things, and she's a tremendous chef. Anyway, can't say enough about Sarah.
So you were telling me at your customer appreciation dinner that you had never run a restaurant before. What prompted you to get into the restaurant business?
I'd never run a cash register before. And people have asked me that before, and I think my pat answer is pretty much I had a weak moment.
A weak moment.
Yeah.
Was it the scenery? Was it the food? Was it the company?
Golly, I have a sister 10 years older than I am. She was pre-World War II, and I was after when Dad came back. And so when she would go to college in Bozeman, we would take her to Bozeman. And of course, there was no freeway at that time. That was the main highway past La Hood. And so we would always stop at La Hood when the old hotel was there, and they had a soda fountain, and they had the best root beer floats in the world. And so I've been going to La Hood off and on all my life, and it was for sale, and Mary, that had owned it before me, that I bought it from, she just had had enough. And so I thought, well, kind of in my life, I've had several businesses, and when it's so exciting in a new business or new anything when the learning curve is so steep, and then it starts to plateau off, and then it's not as much fun. And
You sound like such an entrepreneur. I know exactly what you're talking about.
and so that came up, and I'd been in the cabinet shop with my son for quite a while, and I thought, well, why not? And besides, I was living outside of Bozeman, and Bozeman had gotten just too busy for me. It's really a nice young people's town, but I first went there in 1967. I think there were 6,000 people in Bozeman, and now I wouldn't even know how many. But anyway, it just seemed like something to do. So I did.
So you bought the restaurant
I
and
did.
really built up your own clientele from that. And
Yes.
then in 2019,
21. The
21, you
fire.
had the fire.
Yeah, September 30, 21.
So what happened with that? So you've got a new restaurant now, but how did this all happen?
Well, obviously after the fire, I thought about it for a while and tried to decide what to do. I didn't have I didn't know. And it was in September. But if you're coming up the canyon, there's a sign right there off 287 that says 10 miles to La Hood.
Yeah.
And then by Lewis and Clark Caverns, there's a sign La Hood 4 miles. And I thought, I just can't be the last guy to not have La Hood. So come April, I drove a stake in the ground and we started, and there it is.
That's a good reason. I mean, you're on the road sign, so
Oh yeah,
it would be a shame to
it
just
would
have
be.
it.
It would have
Where's La
haunted
Hood?
me.
There's no
would
more
have
La
haunted
Hood.
me forever.
Yeah, I would imagine it would.
Forever might not be too long, but
So you have that eagle. Was that carved in your restaurant?
that's
Was
the
that
phoenix.
carved after?
yeah, it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. Old Greek mythology.
Yeah.
The phoenix was a bird, depending upon what mythology you read, lived 100 years or 500 years, burst into flames, and then the chicks came from that flame. And so that was carved out of a semi-burnt beam out of my old restaurant. And this new restaurant is the phoenix rising from that old restaurant.
Yeah, I think that piece. Did you make that piece?
Oh, no. I had a guy out of Harrison, Montana,
Okay.
carve that. Mike
It's
Madak is
exquisite.
his name. Quite an artist.
Yeah, it is exquisite, and it's so dramatic because the restaurant is so new and bright, and big windows, and then you have this piece up there. It's just incredibly dramatic. So, in the bar, and then you have this beautiful bar. The bar must have come from another bar at some point.
The bar and the back bar were my dad's. He owned the Montana bar when I was a pup, and I remembered how pretty it was. And
You got it from your dad's bar?
it was my dad's. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. And it was built in 1896.
Wow.
So when we took it out of the old place, my son and I, and there was quite a few other people helped us, but on the back of the mirror, not the mirror itself, but the mirror base, it said 1896, and it said proudly, there was a big yellow sign that said proudly union made in the United States, or USA.
So you were born in Butte.
I
Did your
was.
dad have this Montana bar in Butte?
He did. Yeah, he owned that bar. He bought it from a fellow named John Starvich after World War II, after the war. Dad worked there until about the mid-'80s.
And I think this is where you and I really started to engage, because you told me that your family is from Serbia. Is that right?
Montenegro.
Montenegro. Okay.
Yeah.
And a Montenegrin family moving into Butte. How did that happen?
Mining.
Mining.
Oh, sure. You know, Butte is the melting pot, and there is every nationality in Butte, as we've talked before, even the Chinese.
Yeah.
But just a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for people who had not had much in their life in the old country, and they could come and work hard, which they know how to do or knew how to do, and make a good living for themselves.
And that was your grandfather that came here, right?
No, my dad.
Your dad?
My dad. He came with his dad, which was
Wow.
my grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did your dad work in the mines as well?
Oh, for about 6 months, Dad hated the mines. Went down in that deep old
He's
dark
like,
hole
"No."
every day, and that just wasn't my dad. But
So he got here and he thought he was going to mine, and then he said, "No, I don't want to do that." So he turned to
well, there was
the
great
bar?
opportunity. No, he worked for a food service company for a while and traveled the state of Montana. And to be right honest with you, I've kind of forgotten what other things he did, but I don't recall. But I remember he worked for a food service company for a while.
And then when did he open the bar?
Well, he bought it after the war, so it would have been the late 40s.
Did you work at the bar?
Never did.
Oh, wow.
No, no. Mom
That's
was
probably a good
well,
thing,
Mom
right?
was a teetotaler,
Oh, okay. That's perfect combination.
It was. It worked for them. They were married 65 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're going to get at the heart of the matter now, because
Okay.
this is mostly about ranching
Oh,
and
yes.
steak. So how did you get from being a son of an immigrant in Butte, Montana, to running a ranch somewhere up in the Little Belt, right?
Yeah, central Montana.
How did that happen?
Met my bride, who I was married to almost 41 years, and her family came from that ranch, and so they invited us to manage that ranch, and ultimately we bought it and enlarged it and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it was just
How long did you run the ranch?
almost 25 years,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it was a great opportunity for me and wonderful place to raise a family, and I enjoyed all the parts of my life, but I really enjoyed that one.
So my intent is to have my own ranch,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in my mid-50s. My family had wanted to be in Wyoming ranching, but it never worked out. So I'm curious what your advice would be for a woman who's in her 50s who wants to ranch. Or did you ever have those setback moments where you're like, I can't do this anymore?
No.
Okay.
No, nor will you. But I had a lot of great mentors, and I was never afraid to ask questions. And I remember Willie Adams was a great mentor, and Willie told me early on. He said, he told me he was glad that we shared help, brandings and hauling cattle and working cattle and all those things. And Willie was a lot older. But he always told me, he said, ranchers live poor and die rich, because you accumulate land, you accumulate cattle, you accumulate crops, you accumulate buildings, but you don't have a whole lot of walking around money.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right.
Say that again.
They live poor and die rich.
Okay.
And that's a fact, as near as I can tell. But if it's your calling, you got to go.
Mm-hmm. So, being a cattle rancher, and I know more about you, that you really do know meat. You know meat very, very well. So let's dig into your time in California and talk more about meat quality.
Okay, Mr. Harris, John Harris,
of Harris Ranch.
And he became ill, and he sold off the feed yard and the packing house and all those parts of his business. At that time, and I don't know how much now, but at that time he had, and Mr. Harris, if I'm telling a story, I don't mean to, but I think he had about 26,000 acres of irrigated farmland in the San Joaquin Valley, which is the breadbasket of America. And then he also had a home over on the King River where he would breed about 400 thoroughbred mares a year.
Oh.
And so Mr. Harris, from telling you about breeding plants and breeding horses, he understood about breeding cattle and what you needed to do. And at that time, California had quite a lot of eared cattle that don't grade particularly well. And the cattle just weren't very consistent. And in their packing house, they only had about 35% of their mix ended up choice, and the rest was select and even standard. And so they wanted to improve the quality grade of their cattle.
So were you focused primarily on the genetics and genetic makeup of these animals? Were you breeding in more Angus?
All Angus.
All Angus.
It was all Angus, and the reason being, Angus has a huge database, still larger than any other breed. Mm-hmm. And so you have the opportunity to select scientifically, if you will, how you want to mate your cows. Mm-hmm. So it all came from the sire side. And so I started a database, and so I would go, Mr. Harris and Mr. Wood, Dave Wood actually was the guy that ran the feed yard and the packing house and all the beef side of Mr. Harris's business. And so I went with them, and we went around the state of California to 80 different ranches and explained to those people what Harris Ranch would do for them if they cared to provide their cattle to Harris Ranch.
You went around to 80 of the ranches
and talked to those people and ultimately became friends with all of them. And
were you bringing in Angus, or were they already Angus ranches?
Well, there were Angus ranches in California, purebred Angus ranches. However, they didn't have all the traits that we needed. And so we did bring in some cattle from other states. And then over time, those breeders understood what was going on, and they started to integrate the traits that were required by Harris Ranch and really by the eating public of America into their breeding stock.
So, were you getting EPDs that could designate marbling, or was it marbling? Was it
marbling, ribeye size, fat? We were
and
focused.
the EPDs would give you that information. You could say
yes.
Okay.
We were focused at that time on carcass traits. However, let me digress. I remember going to a BIF meeting, Beef Improvement Federation, in Billings. This would have been maybe 30 years ago, probably by now. And I started to visit with a fellow who had given a talk, and he was from Cornell, and he had spent his lifetime in the Holstein breed. And he said that at that time, the Holstein cow, the average Holstein cow, produced 2.2 calves per year, or in her lifetime. And that's not enough to maintain the herd. So although the Holstein breed had tremendous EPDs on udder structure, udder size, milk production, fat quality in the milk, I mean, they had tremendous. But what stuck with me is he said they forgot about fertility. So, so that's the first thing every breeder of cattle has to focus on is we have to have fertility. We have to have cattle that can raise a good calf or provide good milk, as in the Holstein breed, but yet be productive from a fertility standpoint.
So what's the average that you would want from a beef cow?
Average
fertility, how many animals?
Well, a cow, an Angus cow today, with proper management, will probably provide 12 calves in her lifetime.
Wow.
And EPDs aren't a direct insight into what they are is estimated progeny differences. So it tells me that this bull is going to be better than this bull.
The delta.
So, but that's a lot to work with. So if we decide that we want, and so one of the main things that we can focus on from fertility standpoint is the scrotal size of the bull, especially at a yearling age. And,
big balls.
Oh, they gotta have them. Well, not too big, especially in Montana where they'll freeze in the winter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good to know.
So everything in moderation. But that's the main focus for fertility. So if you have this mark in the sand that says this bull is going to have an EPD of such and such for scrotal circumference, then you've already cut off, and say that's average in the breed, then you've already cut off half of the breed. And then if we're going to have this much weaning growth, you've already cut off another segment, and you're going to have this much milk and this much yearling weight and this much marbling and foot structure, and I mean, all of a sudden we're dealing with a multi-trait system that so you've got to be really prudent about your selection.
So everybody's got some kind of spreadsheet or database that they're using today. I mean, a lot of them can work in the cloud and work
Or
off
maybe, I
all
don't
these
know.
associations. But you built your own, right?
Yeah, I had
You
a
built
database
for Harris Ranch.
and well, for myself. And what I did is I went to these people and I got their pedigrees of the bulls. Say their cow herd was 10 years old. So I got the pedigrees from the bulls that have bred those cows. And so I created a list of EPDs that I said, okay, this is their cow herd. And then they would say to me, well, I want this and I want that. And I said, okay. So then I would go into the database and I would select bulls to provide not only what Harris Ranch wanted, but what they wanted from a performance and fertility standpoint. And so as you, again, since it's a multi-trade system, it took quite a lot of shopping. And
So you gave me those numbers at one point. Was it like 4% that they were getting of prime, and you moved it up to?
No, they weren't getting any prime.
They had no prime.
Maybe half of 1%. They were getting 35% choice, and the rest kind of select and standard.
Okay.
Which are really.
But you got them into the prime business, right?
Well, they're at 6% prime now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and
that's amazing.
oh, and we went to 84% choice from 35%.
Wow.
Yeah, but it took 15 years. You don't change a cow herd overnight.
Right.
That old cow herd's still that old cow herd until you start improving it or changing it. Shouldn't say improving.
And you were going back to your partners and saying, okay, this is the choice of EPDs that we're looking at.
No, I just went and bought them. But
you just went and bought them.
And of course, some of that was in the time when cattle were still pretty big. Angus cattle back in the 70s and 80s they got big. The Chianina, the Simmental. There was a lot of European cattle came into this country in the 70s and 80s, and they were multi-purpose cattle. They not only some of them were milk cattle like Simmental, but they were also double as a draft animal, as oxen, and so they were big cattle, and big cattle aren't necessarily particularly efficient. All of them, most of them aren't.
And they have calving issues too, right?
Yeah. There was still some of that, and so not only did we have to have EPDs that would meet the criteria and satisfy everybody's breeding goals, and over the years I finally found ranches that had the right kind and the right EPDs, and that cut way back on my travel time. And plus they were honorable, good people and progressive breeders, and what they said always is what they meant, and that's the way it was. So you find good partners in life, and I found some great partners.
Do you think that has as much to do with it as the cattle themselves? Is like the rancher's ability to work with you, to be flexible, to be humble, to hear what you're saying and take your direction?
And I just found the cattle that I wanted.
Okay.
And but let me say this too, that genetics or EPDs, highly heritable traits, and marbling is a highly heritable trait, and it provides like 39 or 40% of the phenotype, which leaves 60 or 61% of the phenotype to management and environment. So not only did Mr. Harris and Mr. Wood come up with these, Larry and I came up with the genetic specs, but they said this is what we want. And so when we would visit with their customers, with their beef customers, cattle customers, we would explain, we would say that to them. And so they integrated some things into the program, and if they would do this with their cattle and provide as good as an environment as they could for those genes to express themselves, then they would get bonuses on their cattle when the Harris Ranch bought them. And so that was very important too.
Very motivating.
Well, obviously, if I'm going to get paid for something, that's going to pay me more than it costs me to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what happened. Because we wanted those genes to express themselves, but if they were in a poor environment or poor management, that wasn't going to happen. If they didn't have enough to eat or, or whatever.
My mom, that was her absolute favorite restaurant. Like
Oh,
I'm glad that La Hood is close because I need my steaks on a pretty regular basis. My mom would come up with reasons why we would have to travel between San Francisco and Los Angeles so she could go to Harris Ranch. And it was the environment, right? That restaurant was beautiful. It felt like, Texas or something, the way it was styled and just so open. And
Mr. Harris's dad was from Arizona.
What would you say really was the primary driver for the marbling or the higher quality
it's
choice?
marbling. It's marbling.
It's marbling.
Yes.
It really brought in your choice percentages.
Of course. Yeah, that's when cattle are graded. They're graded between the 11th and 12th rib, and so just after harvest of the cattle have that rib split, and they go into the cooler for 24 hours or thereabouts. And then the grader at that time, it was people grading, now it's instrument grading, but they would look at that piece of that ribeye and they would say, okay, there's so much marbling, so this is either a small choice, a modest or moderate choice, or a moderately abundant prime, or a select. And so all of the quality grade has to do with how much marbling. Now, certified Angus beef, which is what we serve, has provided many other aspects to that. It has to be average choice or above, which is modest marbling or higher. There can't be any dark cutters. There can't be any yield grade 4s, which means the cattle can't be too fat. There's a limitation on ribeye size, and we found over time. As a matter of fact, I'll digress again.
I like your digressions.
Mr. Wood, Dave Wood, who ran all the beef industry there at Harris Ranch, he had a good friend, and I'm sure still does, named John. I'll come up with it. Anyway, John was the president of NCA, National Cattlemen's Association. But John was a big thinker, and somewhere in there he became the first president of NCBA, National Cattlemen's Beef Association. John Lacey, I'm sorry, I couldn't come up with John's last name.
You got it.
So John Lacey. And so John was a kind of a driver in all this too, because he understood back there in the early to mid 80s that cattlemen weren't just raising cattle, they were raising beef. Mm-hmm. And if customers, whatever beef customers wanted, they needed to be able to provide that. And so that was some of the early impetus to improving beef quality. And I pat John Lacey and Dave Wood was involved in that at that time. I pat those guys on the back because they were some of the movers and shakers that kind of shaped the industry that we live in today. Great guys, bright guys.
So what about finishing? Like, do you have any preference, grain, grass-fed, aging? Are there things about the beef that, despite the marveling and the beautiful steak that comes out of it, are there other elements that you feel are necessary to really make that steak?
Well, again, if marbling is 40% heritable, the other 60% has to be environment and management. And so to express that much marbling, pretty much have to be grain-fed.
Just because that
goes
to the fat, yes. Just like on our bodies, that's right?
Fat. That's just the way it is.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. And was Harris Ranch bringing in their grain from California, or was it coming?
They bought as much as they could, but they had train loads. They would buy train loads of corn from the Midwest and bring it in.
So the Midwest still, one of the reasons why our American beef is so good is grain, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's it really it makes us a cut of both,
yeah,
literally.
Corn has, it's called TDN, total digestible nutrients. Corn has more TDN than any other feed that you can feed cattle, whether it's on the ranch or it's in the feed yard. Corn is a tremendous feed stuff, tremendous.
So, as a new rancher, what would you recommend? Would you recommend Angus, or do you have some feeling about the breeding now that it seems like we're going away from just pure Angus back towards, the Baldies and then, Simmental in some regions? It seems like people are mixing it up a little bit more again. Would you recommend purebred Angus? Would you see this climate, Montana, a place where, hardier stock would be necessary? So hybrid vigor, or what would be your preference?
I guess it would, if someone asked me that question as you did and you plan to go into the business, first you'd have to define who your customer is and what they demand. But I firmly believe that the Angus breed, with the database that exists, could provide almost any customer with what they wanted.
Do you think that we can get the kind of performance that Harris Ranch got in this environment in Montana? Higher elevation, colder climate. Can we do that?
Without question.
Without question.
Oh, as a matter of fact, in the beginning, we were buying some cattle out of Montana, and they were so far superior to the California cattle. I mean,
oh wow! Tell me more.
Oh yeah.
How can I make
I don't want.
superior?
I don't want to mention any names, but I know those people to this day, and I still see them at bull sales now and then. But it just they were progressive breeders, and they did the right things, and they created the right environment, and they made really good cattle. Oh, I know Montana makes some of the best cattle in the country.
Do you think is it the grass? Is it the elevation? Is it just the genetics that are nearby?
Yeah, the state grass of Montana is Agrospirum spicatum. It's a wheatgrass. I can't remember the common name, but it's a wheatgrass.
Oh, I'm pretty impressed that
Anyway.
you're using the Latin name.
Anyway,
That's pretty good.
and that's why they came here from Texas in the 1800s, was for that grass.
Oh,
And Montana's natural grasses, besides wheatgrasses, there's fescues. Oh gosh, I got to go back into my agrostology brain if I can. But Montana has tremendous grass, tremendous.
right in this valley, right here nearby.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Do you think then that there's a likelihood that I could be profitable running a ranch here in Montana? A small herd? I don't need to run, 2,000 animals.
Yeah.
There's very little place you can do that anymore. Could I do it with, I don't know, 150, 200
Oh, yeah.
pairs?
You could make a living if you kind of watch what you're doing, and sure. When I first started, I think we only had about 200 pairs, and ours was a complete dry land operation. And so in the dry years, not so many, and I think some of the good years, we had up to 450 cows, and then I'd buy some yearling cattle out of Canada and summer them, and sell those in the fall and like in September. So yeah, I mean, the environment
Why out
again.
of Canada? Why would you? Were
Well,
they
it was
cheaper?
close.
Oh,
Yeah, and they were a lot of them were Simmental cross cattle, and they grow like crazy. And so we had good feed and plenty of it in those good years, and so we just got big cattle because they'd eat a lot and grow fast. And I figured that was a way to and
Supplement.
it worked. We made pretty good money on those cattle.
you can like bringing in other breeds for other purposes. You can
Well,
supplement.
we didn't
your
breed
income.
them. We bought yearlings.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
But it was like an alternative revenue stream. If something happened on this side, you could.
It was.
You didn't have to deal with the babies and the
Yeah,
scours.
and we had more grass than you can't just. It was easier to buy yearling cattle than it was to go buy pairs, because I don't want to buy pairs that somebody else is throwing away, So anyway.
Yeah, I could see that being. A lot of risk when you're buying
Oh yeah.
bred animals or.
Oh yeah. disease
babies.
and all kind. And you don't know anything about the breeding, or that just wasn't what I wanted to do.
We're gonna cook for you.
Okay.
We have a few different types of steak that we're just gonna cook up for you, and then we'll just hear what your thoughts are on the different types of meat, and we have maybe a little secret snuck in there to see if you catch it.
All right.
But I'm looking forward to that. And before we get into that, I guess I'll just ask you. I'm going to ask all my guests 2 questions. One is, what's your favorite musical group? Gives me a little, something about who you might be, or your song. What's your favorite song, one way or the other?
Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Any particular song?
And the Wind Cries Mary.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That is so great. Oh, that's
that
good.
was one of my other lives.
You played guitar?
Oh no, I just was an old hippie.
Okay, yeah, that's what was it like between skiing and cattle ranching? Where
No,
did the hippie fit in?
It was college days and ski days.
Okay, ski bum with long hair. Did you have long hair?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Was it like, back in a ponytail?
I never did wear a ponytail.
Oh, you just let it hang down.
Yeah.
I bet you were handsome as anything.
I don't know.
Those blue eyes
Yeah.
and long hair. Oh, I love it.
They were great days.
And then the other question is, what have you not done yet? You in particular, you've checked a lot of boxes. What have you not done yet?
That's an easy one. I've got to go to Montenegro.
Oh, okay.
Got to.
Yeah.
And Will, my son, keeps pestering me. He wants to go with me. So.
Okay, so when's the trip? Next couple of years?
Next year. He can't. He's just too busy right now. But we're going to start planning now so that we get it put together next year.
Well, I'm going to have you back because you still have a lot of things you haven't covered. Your woodworking.
Oh.
There's a lot there that I would love to dig into in a later session.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
I'm going to go cook up the steaks and then we'll bring them out.
You want to look at those steaks before you cook them so we can talk about the marbling, so I can show you, and I won't know what they are out here.
I like that. Yeah.
Then I can show you what the differences are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that. I love that idea. So these are a couple of steaks that I went to the grocery store and bought. And rather than just cook them up for you, you can talk me through the marbling.
When they rib the cattle between the 11th and 12th rib, the part that goes toward the front of the cattle, that's the ribeye. Mm-hmm. And the next part down is the New York strip or Kansas City strip, or however, it's the strip loin. Mm-hmm. And I would guess that this piece of meat was right next to a piece of meat like this. So this is kind of the beginning of a New York, or the end of a ribeye. It still shows a little bit of cap.
Okay.
And this ribeye shows good cap.
Okay, so these are the same part of them.
They would be kissing cousins for sure.
Okay. Okay.
And this steak has obviously been trimmed. I can see that the butcher's trimmed this here. And you can see that in the ribeye, that's why this steak is so juicy. There's so much fat in it. Mm-hmm. Whereas as you get more into the strip loin, there's not as much fat.
Okay.
And there's kind of a reason there. In the front part of the cattle, that muscle doesn't move as much. In the back end of the cattle, that muscle moves more. Mm-hmm. So the New York has, I think, a little more flavor and a little more texture. This is so tender. This can be extremely tender too. However, it just has a little more texture because that muscle moves a little more.
So you actually like the New York better?
I am a New York fan.
Okay.
That's just my personal preference.
But then I've had New York where it looks like a big juicy piece of steak, and then it ends up being a little tough because it's probably not got enough marbling in it.
Or it wasn't prepared properly, or taken care of at some point in time properly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can go into that. And that's one of the things certified Angus beef excludes is, don't quote me on this again, but I think it's the 7th cervical vertebrae. There can't be any more than 2 inches of rise in the cattle. So what that does is it excludes Brahman influenced cattle.
Oh.
And Brahman cattle have a different muscle fibril system, and they just eat tough. It's just tougher meat, period.
You know, I lived in Brazil, and I basically you eat exclusively Brahman in Brazil. I mean, and they're all bulls. Like they don't slaughter anything but bulls down there for some reason for meat. So, and they have completely different cutting, I think, as a result of the
I'm sure
the anatomical structure of the Brahman. But there is one piece of meat that I wish I could get here, which is called picanha, and it comes from like in between the shoulder. It's kind of part of that big fat piece on their back, and it's like the juiciest piece of meat I've ever had, and it tends to be more, I'd say, dense than what I know of American, because it maybe doesn't have as much marbling. I don't know, but I do. I probably like the ribeye the best. I'm less keen on the New York, but this one is special for its type of meat. Now you look at it and you say not too much.
Well, it doesn't express much marbling because it's a piece of meat. I think you said it was a sirloin, and the sirloin actually is these are all the same muscle. This is up front, this is in the middle, and goes down along the rear end. It's the longissimus dorsi.
Okay.
The same muscle that we have going down
Just
our back.
cut this way instead of down, essentially.
No, it's maybe I'm not explaining it properly. As this piece of meat, as the sirloin, or the loin, it goes past the loin into the sirloin, it just becomes a muscle that works a lot because it's a motion muscle, and every time they take a step, they use that muscle. So it's tougher, always going to be tougher. It doesn't express as much marbling. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. But
Okay, well, we'll cook them up, and you can tell me if
it could be extremely
this is a
tender,
different
though.
breed.
Yeah.
So
and those cattle are, and here you can see this is not really marbling, that big chunk of white in there. That's fat like this.
Okay.
And this doesn't express much marbling. That's if I were standing on the grading line, I would call that in small, that's the lowest part of choice.
So you're saying that this is just a big chunk of fat.
That's
It's
fat.
not
That's not
really
marbling.
marbling.
No.
So marbling
The
are
marbling
these
are
little
the
tiny.
small specks.
Okay.
And so I would call this probably like a slight 90, which would be a select. And,
Okay.
And I would probably grade that as a small choice. And there's 100 degrees of marbling in every subsection. So in a small, modest, and moderate, those are all choice grades, but the modest and moderate have far more marbling. But inside of the small, modest, and marbling, or slight, there's 100 degrees difference. So the grader would I'll call this a small 10, which means since there's 100 degrees, that's closer to a select than it is to a modest.
Oh wow.
And
So this is choice according
I
to
would
the
call
grocery
that,
store.
yeah, it's a low choice.
Okay.
I would call it a small 10 or a small 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really shocked because I haven't seen choice in the grocery store since COVID.
Oh.
I bought all my meat during COVID because it was so great.
Do you
we
go
got
to
so much
Three
choice.
Forks?
No, I go to Bozeman.
Oh, Three Forks has certified Angus beef.
Really?
Yeah.
Choice?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's all choice. Certified Angus beef.
Oh.
That's what we serve, is certified Angus beef.
Oh, I didn't realize
And that's
that.
the upper 2/3 of choice.
Wow.
This would not make certified Angus beef, even though it's
Wow.
choice. It's low choice.
Wow. That is like something I should know. I never knew that. So when it says certified Angus beef with a little
Oh, yeah.
branding on it, that is
Then you're getting
clearly
the good
choice.
stuff. You
Okay.
bet. No, it's high choice.
Wow,
Yeah.
high choice.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. All right, we're gonna cook them up, and then you can tell me what the flavor profiles are and what you think of them and what I should be angling to make. So here we are back with the steaks cooked. What should we be looking for flavor profile wise with these? What is it? Texture primarily?
I'm pretty sure I remember. They're called palatability traits: flavor, tenderness, and juiciness.
Juiciness.
So those are the palatability traits, which means, how does it feel in my mouth? How does it taste? And anyway, those are the things that when you're in blind taste tests, and I've been in quite a few of them over the years, those are the things that you focus on in your mind. Are those palatability? Is it tasty? Is it juicy? Is it flavorful? Is it tender?
Okay, tender, flavorful, juicy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll cut the. Where should I start on this? Is there any particular place on in New York? Just dig in.
Yeah. No.
Just dig in. Wow, it looks pretty.
Looks
pretty
tender, huh?
Looks pretty tender. Want to try?
Thank
You
you.
tell me what you think.
A little smaller bite for me.
Okay. Yeah, let's split them in half. There we go.
There, perfect.
Maybe got a little more fat than I wanted in that one. I think it's very flavorful.
It is flavorful. It eats a little tough, but part of that was the fat, I think.
Oh no, that piece was delicious.
Okay.
And I see what you mean by there's a bit more to it. There's more substance. There's texture.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
juicy. I mean, all I did
it's
was
done
put a
nicely,
little
too.
salt on that. I mean, that. Wow. Would that pass your muster, Bill?
No.
No. I love it. So needs to be more tender, less cooked.
No, I think the tenderness is fine for New York, except it just doesn't have enough marbling. There's not as much flavor in there that comes from the marbling that more marbling provides. And
So the marbling brings both the juiciness and
And the flavor.
and it transmits the flavor
yes,
throughout the
yeah.
meat.
And,
Right.
and another thing I should have said, matter of fact, it's already slipped my mind. Done perfectly. And this is the cap. This is the cap of the ribeye. And
That's the best part, right?
It is. So we're going to feast on the best part.
Okay, so there's something a little bit different about that meat
Well,
that I'm hoping you pick up on.
Do you recall that when I was touching these that I said this one's kind of medium and this one's medium rare? I got the finger.
Like Gordon Ramsay, you can. Yeah, that's the one thing I've never been
yeah.
able to determine is touch. What do you think of that one?
Very good. Very good.
So that one has a little extra finish to it, which is it's been aged.
Oh.
Aged for 30 days.
Oh, wow. And it also has more marbling. It's
Even
very
so,
good.
does the aging process diminish the marbling in any
No,
way?
as a matter of fact, the longer, up to a certain point, but the minute you cut into a piece of meat that's on the subprimal, it's just raw meat, it already begins. That's why they rib the cattle and let it in the cooler for 24 hours, because that lets the bloom, that lets the marbling bloom. That allows you to see it. So when you first cut it, you don't hardly see any marbling. And so, and that was one thing I did when I stood on the grading line on quality control is if the grader said that was a select 80 or something and I thought it was a small 10, and tomorrow if we gave it another day in the cooler, it was going to be a small 10 for sure, because it takes a while for that fat to oxidize and to show itself.
So do you serve aged beef in at Lahood?
She's aging some. What Sarah does is she butter ages them. She covers the whole subprimal in butter and ages it for 40 days.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So good.
But
We only do that occasionally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was
that's
going
like
to
for
say, have
Father's
you
Day
been
or
doing that
Mother's Day
all
or-
along?
No.
No.
And it's so good.
Oh yeah.
And we always pick prime, not high choice. We pick prime to do that with. And you talk about melting your
You're
mouth.
going to have to
I
put me
will.
on speed dial for that.
All right.
Because there's a place that My favorite, before I moved here, my favorite restaurant was Anton's in Kansas City. And he ages his beef for
Oh, yeah.
60 days
Oh,
in
yeah.
his basement. And it is like, I've never eaten steak like that
Oh,
before.
yeah.
So, for me, aged beef is my favorite just because I like that tang. I like that kind of on the back of the palate.
Oh, yes.
But now I know.
And part of the aging, the dry age, if it's a dry aged product,
Yeah, this is dry aged for 30
it's,
days.
it's the bacteria that grows on there that gives it that very unique flavor, and it's so good.
Kind of like blue cheese to cheese. The aging
Oh
is
yes.
to.
Oh yes. But the butter age doesn't provide that bacterial growth, but it does provide that aged flavor. You know, so
I'm sure that brings something else to it. I gotta start here because this is the piece that I've been longing to try to see if you can identify
all right.
what's going on in this piece. Maybe I should have gotten deeper into it, but this isn't necessarily a juiciness. And
Well,
as you noted,
it's
there's
a
not a lot of
sirloin.
right,
Yeah.
not a lot of marbling. But maybe it's the flavor that makes it distinct. It should be the juiciness too, based on what this kind of breed is. But can you identify what you think the breed might be?
Well, no, it's chewy, but again, it's a sirloin, but it has nice flavor, but it doesn't have a lot of juiciness. So
Right. It has great
it
flavor, doesn't
it
it?
has one out of the 3 palatability traits.
So can you take a wild guess at what this might be? It's Wagyu.
Oh, really?
I wanted to get a different cut, but they didn't have anything that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's still hard to get from a butcher. It's hard to get Wagyu. I mean, you can get it packaged. And the guy at the grocery store was really interesting. He said, I was going to get grass-fed too, and he said, don't get the grass-fed meat because it's all packaged. And I think that ruins the meat.
What does he mean, all packaged?
It's pre-packaged.
Oh,
it comes into the grocery
it's
store already.
cryo-wrapped. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pre-cut.
this was all fresh meat
Yeah.
cut by the butcher
Yeah.
at the grocery store. So.
Yeah, and grass-fed beef, again, even though the cattle may have enough marbling in its genetic code to create marbling, the grass doesn't typically allow it. It's the management and environment again, which makes up 60% of the outcome. And that's why, it has a unique flavor, but it's not nearly as juicy.
So of the three of them, what's your favorite?
Oh, the cap on that ribeye was great.
Yeah, I agree. That's I mean, and it's also aged. So
Yeah.
I mean, if I was
it's
to do
excellent.
a value added product, I'd probably go with something like this, where you're aging it for a bit of time, so you bring in a more flavor. It's more unique in the market.
I'm trying to recall some numbers. The middle meats, which are the ribeye and the strip loin, account for about 17 or 18% of the weight of the carcass. And they provide about 70% of the value.
Is that in commercial cattle too? Is that
Oh, that's in commercial cattle, yeah.
so? Say that again.
so-
17% of the weight and 70%
Percent
of the value.
of the carcass,
Wow.
yeah.
So all you need to do is make a good steak. Everything will follow.
Well, I just, when people start to think about vertically integrating a product, which may be in your mind at some point in time, and you could have either your own little packing plant, or you could take it to a local small packing house and have them pack it for you. But I just want you to remember that a lot of people have tried vertically integrating in the cattle business, and it's hard, because if you got 80% of the value here in 17 or 18% of the carcass, what am I going to do with the rest of this meat? And it's going to be so undervalued. And
That it becomes like a disposal issue, is what you're
well,
saying.
it
Like
just
you have to.
that's
do
one
something
thing
with
that
it.
big packing houses have. When I was working quality control, they also knew that I bought cattle, and so those guys that always teased me, they would, and I don't want to get out of line here, but they would always tease me about, yeah, you know, in the packing house we use everything in the cattle except the assholes, and we make cattle buyers out of them. And there's more truth to that than not the cattle buyer part, but a big packing house, the bones are ground up for fertilizer. A lot of the tripe goes to Mexico because there's damn little waste in a packing house because they know how to utilize everything. Whereas a small entrepreneur, it becomes far greater challenge. Not that it can't be done, but you have to be really smart about it.
And I've only got so many more years on my
don't we all?
this old girl.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this has been so great.
Test.
Yeah, let me just bring my screen back up. Yeah, this has been so fantastic. I mean,
well, thank you for the opportunity. I enjoyed it.
I'm just gonna say, like, having somebody like you nearby, be my friend, and make such good meals for me when I go in there. And I'm going to say, really, please come to Montana and visit La Hood because it is an experience in and of its own, and it's genuinely good food made right in just a beautiful setting. And Phil is the master of ceremonies like no other. He makes great drinks. He takes care of us. And I'm going to have you back. We're going to talk about other stuff. Maybe you can bring your guitar and play some Jimi Hendrix. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So Montenegro's on the... Maybe you'll come back after you go to Montenegro.
Maybe.
And tell us more about that experience. Yeah. Now, is Montenegro known for its cattle? Or do you...
No. Montenegro Black Mountain. One of the... There's a book called The Forgotten 500. And... It's a good read. During World War II, the Nazis had fuel depots in Romania. There was a lot of refining, and they had a lot of fuel there. And so the Allied forces would fly from Italy across Yugoslavia, over the Black Mountain, over Montenegro, and bomb those fuel depots. And of course, some of them would get shot down, either coming or going. And the Forgotten 500 were 500 Allied airmen that were shot down in Yugoslavia, mostly Montenegro. And they were there for, I can't remember in the book, it's been years since I've read the book, but they were there quite a long time. And the local people took care of them until they finally, with picks and shovels and by hand, built a kind of a little airstrip. And finally there was an Allied plane came in and picked them all up, and it's a great read.
Oh, wow, that is. So they survived the crashes.
Yes, many of them, not all of them, of course,
right.
but the 500 of them.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. My first trip abroad was 40 years ago. Sorry, still some steak in my mouth. My first trip abroad was 40 years ago this summer. In fact, 40 years ago in July. And my first place to touch down was Belgrade, Yugoslavia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was the first place I ever saw outside of the United States. I was 16 years old. And it was like...
What's your remembrance? How do you recall it?
Well, we stayed in this hotel right on the Danube. So, for me, the Blue Danube, it just has such a resonance. It's romantic. And I find myself here in Montana, right on the Jefferson. I guess I'm a river gal. That it just draws me in. So yes, we were there for about 24 hours before we headed on into the Soviet Union.
Oh yes.
But I went to Tito's grave. He had died about maybe 2 or 3 years prior. He was very, very well loved by his people.
He was.
And Belgrade was just a beautiful little town. We were right on the river, right next to a bridge, so you could go walk downtown. Yeah. And it was like I think the only thing I'd really known well was the sound of music and kind of that Austrian landscape. And it reminded me a lot of that because it's surrounded by mountains and the river and just this kind of European feel to it. So I was pretty enamored.
Cool. Cool.
So you will have to report back next
Okay.
time you're here.
I'll do it.
I am so glad to have
Well,
you
thank you.
here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So much for your time,
Thank you.
Phil. And yeah,
All right.
all right. We will end there. Thank you all for your time and attention. And as you can see, we're going to have a blast with this podcast, doing things, asking questions, always around the ranching industry, always around meat, maybe. But yeah, this is a great place for us to start. So thank you all. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.